Welcome to the Migrant Mentor, where dreams know no borders and inspiration speaks every language. I'm Siraj, and together with my father, we're excited to bring you the powerful stories of migrant entrepreneurs who have ventured far from home to build their dreams. Today, we are thrilled to introduce a truly exceptional guest and a friend to the family, Navneesh Garg, a visionary leader and serial entrepreneur whose impact on the IT industry is nothing short of remarkable. Before we introduce Nav, I'd love to talk about his background. Nav is a dynamic CEO and co-founder of Adactin Group, an award-winning IT consulting powerhouse based in Australia. With an impressive expertise in automation, Nav has authored 4 best-selling books on test automation and has become a sought-after speaker at prestigious IT forums worldwide. His entrepreneurial spirit, ignited at the age of 24, started from a humble garage setup where he embarked on a journey to build not just one, but several successful IT companies. And in just over 10 years, he's grew his enterprise to an impressive team of over 250 employees. Under Nav's visionary leadership, Adactin Group has not only thrived, but also garnered numerous accolades, including Outstanding Business Leader, ARN Emerging Leader, and Young Entrepreneur Awards. The company has expanded its service portfolio, embracing software testing, development and integration, digital, cybersecurity, and more. Adactin Group has earned prestigious recognitions like Deloitte's Fast 500 and Fast 50, the CRN Fast 50 Award, and Westpac's Business of Tomorrow. Nav's story is a testament to the power of perseverance, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Today, we are honored to dive into his inspiring journey, exploring his unique approach to business and innovation, and uncover the invaluable lessons he has learned along the way. Welcome, Nav, to the Migrant Mentor.
Thanks, Suraj, and thanks, Kimji, for having me on the show.
Tell us, you've got an entrepreneurial bent. How did it start? Obviously in India, but give us a little bit of an overview there.
I hail from Punjab region, a state or a city called Bathinda. I did my studies there, but I did my engineering in Delhi from in computer science. From there on, I worked with HCL Technologies for 2 years, and that was a great exposure for me because went to US and then worked there for around 6 months. Worked with multinational customers there in US, and then from HCL Technologies, I went to Adobe Systems. So that's again was a great exposure from working from a services company to moving on to a product company and testing products like Illustrator, InDesign, as a part of product teams on that. And that's where we were learning. We were young, and that's where I was 24, a group of friends, and you make good friends, and you're looking at new technologies, and the spark came up. We were just sitting there one fine day, having dinner, and it's like we got time and we want to learn more, do something different, and that's where we had this opportunity where we could decide, there was an institute who required trainers, and said we can go in and train and use the knowledge somewhere, and that's how it started. And when we started training, and this was just part-time on a weekend, it became a phenomena. So we had everybody wanted to get trained by us. And that's where the kind of the journey started, because it was completely new. I came from a family where my parents were teachers, and we didn't had, a business background. From there to seeing something where, we were like a phenomena, and we were like everybody, reaching out to us. And that's when we said, let's start something of our own. And that made a kind of a big difference, because just being technology guys to being entrepreneurs in that early days, and that's where India was changing. We were the early starters in that space, and we were as friends. I think that made a big difference as well, to take that leap, and we took that leap into that journey where we just started. We took a garage on a rent, where instead we'll actually start training people. So we grew that company to around 250 people. We were in Deloitte Fast 50, and we were talking to the big shot CIOs, in India, and like some of the companies like Make My Trip, which were not that big at that time, but we were like Make My Trip, Snapdeal, Max New York Life Insurance. They were some of our prestigious customers at that point of time. Talking to the CIOs, and we were like 45, 46. So, it's like we were getting asked and saying, who's the owner? And it's like the owner is Mr. X, sitting there, and we're just working as consultants, for the company. So that's the kind of the growth and the learning. We were looking at all the aspects of the business to start with. And from there on, the journey started with Adactin. We as we grew, obviously we got married, we had kids, and then it was more for family, and I got Australian PR, and that's another interesting story because my wife Sapna's ex-boss, he worked for Rio Tinto, and he was there in India, and we met him at one of the hotel lobbies, and he said, "Oh, Australia needs talent like you." And that's like, okay, Australia needs us. And that's kind of instigated us to put in an application for permanent residency. And once we got permanent residency, I think we made a first move to Australia. And after that, I left the company that I was running, and then I started my own company, Adactin, when I relocated to Australia in 2011. So that's kind of the early kind of journey that I had.
And tell us how what the driver behind Adactin was. Where did the spark come?
The learning was always there. So, as I mentioned that I ran my own company for 5 years back in India. So we grew that. So it was always, the spark was there, the knowledge was there. And when I came here first in Australia, I saw there was again a gap in terms of the offerings that were here in terms of the IT space. So I set up Adactin to fill that gap and continue with the journey which I had in India.
You said your parents were teachers. They weren't really business-minded in that sense. Was the friend group a big one? Or was the friend group that was, a couple of you friends? How did that even come about of you going, we should start a business together, of teaching or training?
Yeah.
The initial one.
More than the business. And I know I do come across this a lot of time because each one of us, we don't come from the business background, but then and we look up to people who probably have run businesses, but we don't really need to have that background. I think the spark is not about having somebody in your family running a business. It's about your own self and the belief that you have something different that you want to run, you want to learn, you want to create a differentiate in the market, and the business is just a byproduct
as a result
of what you're trying to do different. And if you can have that financial mindset behind it, and I talked a lot about it in our different forums about having the right business mind running it. So we can have passion, but along with passion, you just need to have that if there is a financial outcome you can achieve.
Yeah.
And that if you tie both these things together, that will make a good business out of it. And if you can tie them together and say, yep, I'm passionate about this, there is a differentiator, and there is a financial outcome and people will pay for it, that makes a business out of it. And that's what anybody could do. And you don't really need to have a business background for that.
So then you arrived in Australia, and obviously you would have worked a little while, but then Adactin, your idea for Adactin came up. Tell us a little bit about the drivers behind that.
First up, I mean, obviously you're in a new country, so I came in here and it's like you're learning every day because I didn't know what's Coles, what's Woolworths, what's Office Works. It's like you just start short your day and you kind of you don't know the culture, and we came from India to here. It was completely a multicultural background, so you find those challenges that come along because you just learning and knowing everything, even the geography of how things work here. So that was kind of the first, I would say, the hurdle or the major bottleneck. Then the business practices itself. I think the way we do business in India versus way we do business here in Australia, from a regulation perspective, from practice perspective, was way different than how I would do. I mean, we have Privacy Act, we have Anti-Spam Act, we have framework. So we need to make sure we run as per the law of land, and we need to do things differently. So that was the first few years were kind of quite a learning experience. I would say the kind of quite a hurdles that we had trying to kind of understand how the market works, and probably not to mention even the context, right? So the business is about people, and how do you kind of reach somebody, and how do you market something when you don't know anybody in that region, and that was kind of the hurdles, when we started Adactin, when we kind of picked up from there. Now, how do we overcome some of these things? I think that's kind of the thing. I mean, it's more obviously constant learning, I would say. And how do we have that? I joined a lot of groups. Like I know Kimji, you were part of the Thai group. I joined the Thai group. I joined the startup groups. So that's where you got to get opportunity to meet a lot of people, locals. You understand how things operate here, and a lot of knowledge sharing happens, and that happened. Other big thing, and which is what I recommend, all entrepreneurs and everybody, is to have mentors. And I was lucky to have find Kimji, you as a mentor. I think the early days of Adactin, and that was again by, I would say, a coincidence, because I got introduced to Kimji by a friend, and we were just having a casual conversation about what I'm trying to do and my background, and Dr. Kimji, with his background in innovation, was ready to help, and that made a big difference to where we were at Adactin, or with Adactin at that time, to where we are now as Adactin. Kind of learning, approaching, and these men, and Kimji brought along Gary Scarborough, who's again one of the mentors and part of our Adactin board, and having a broader team of people who know the local, who understand the culture, who've done this in the past, and who can actually guide you through. Now, and think of it, we were like passionate guys, 26, 27 years old, ready to do the work, we're happy to work 60 hours a week, but then, somebody needs to tell us what to do. So, in this country, and that's where having mentors like Kimji, Gary, really helped us, in that journey, as part of those days. Also, I always feel, apart from obviously the work and the hard work we all do, and I'm assuming everybody will be working hard in those days, was the support of the family. And I said that's paramount, because I think that's where you need to make sure the family is with you and learning through that. So it's, I had my wife Sapna, and we had kids, so making sure that I had the right support. So obviously we were doing the running around, but then having a family who could understand, and not just understand, maybe she again be part of it. And she would be the sounding board for the work that I'm doing, and saying, I met this guy, not sure good or bad, and it's like, okay, what are the positives or the negatives, and let's take a call. And that made a big difference. I always find, if especially in businesses, if it's husband wives together, they're working. I know could be, I know I meet a lot of people, and they don't say, oh, we can't work together. But whereas in scenarios where I've seen where they work together, I think the businesses have grown leaps and bounds, and they know how to recommend that. And that support of family is paramount for the growth of the business.
Dad, how did you've come across entrepreneurs all the time. You started Thai Australia, I believe, here. What was it about Nav that struck you that, yes, this is someone I want to work with, besides his handsome looks as well?
Yeah, but besides his handsome looks, Sapna's good looks, which was very attracting. I think just the fact that they, as Nav quite rightly said, they were hungry. And, as a mentor, and obviously, senior in terms of age and a little bit more grey hair, we need people who are hungry as entrepreneurs. We need younger entrepreneurs to then do the work and the running around, and this is what Nav did. The other thing that, as Nav rightly says, Gary and myself knew each other. So I brought Gary to the table at Adactin, and then we were part of obviously we still are part of the board. But we had those, and one thing I always say to people is, I want to work with CEOs and founders who want to listen to wise advice. So somebody who is going to take on the discussion. And so I remember the early days, Nav, in the board meetings at 10 o'clock at night, we were discussing this, that, and the other. And so to answer your question, Suraj, is that Nav and Sapna were prepared to listen. That was one thing that sparked for me with Nav and Sapna.
Yeah, so it's very much the open-mindedness of listening to different perspectives and ideas, and then you're still making your own decision at the end of the day. You have to make your own mistakes as a CEO, as a founder.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're trying different things and perspectives of other people that have been there, done that type of thing.
And I think your last 3 words is very important. Nav and Sapna recognized that they had 2 guys here who had cultural awareness of Australia, had connections in Australia. So they recognize our input and contribution to the company. And that's also very important to see in an entrepreneur as well, from a mentor's point of view.
And Nav, you mentioned the early days when you came to Australia. What was it like being in Australia and we're settling in, we have to get a house, we have to learn what Coles is and what Woolworths is. When was that flip switch where you were like, I should probably start a company?
I do read a lot, and as part of that, I've got a very kind of a statement which I read out. It's like, two roads diverge in the wood. I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. But
I love that.
And that was the point when when we were here and saying I had a opportunity and the experience as well to take a cushy job and stick there and take care of family and be there versus come out and run a business. And that was obviously a decision that we had to make. And a lot of that comes from, again, coming back to the passion and the hunger that we had, because if you're in a job, we are actually doing one set of work and that's what we do. And we work 9 to 5 versus the learning that I get or can get when we are actually working, by yourself, working for your passion was immense. And that's been one of the core values of, we talk about learning, and the learning could be professionally, could be personally. And both sides, I think I saw there was a big change and a difference. That was something which I could never sit back and do the same thing again and again over a period of years versus trying to do something differently, trying to innovate something differently, trying to create something, and that was kind of the mindset. And that's where it's like, no, I'm not going to go the regular path which probably everybody is willing to take or is taking just to be safe, versus let me take a different path which is less traveled.
If we sort of come back to the journey of the growth at Adactin, obviously starting out and the challenge of being a new migrant was one thing, which is what we want to try and bring out today. How was it that you started to get traction? Because this is, I think, what some of our listeners will be interested in. What was it? What was some of the trigger points that started to give you the traction? What should our listeners be looking out for in their own businesses that they can learn from Adactin?
As part of the business, I think I employed multiple strategies to grow the business, and I would say could be well utilized by all businesses. The first thing I tried or we did was create a differentiator. So, and when I say a differentiator, I came from the testing background myself, working with Adobe's and HCL's and, working in India. So we specialized in the testing services, and that's where was our background. And working through test automation, performance testing, that's where I wrote books as well on.
Testing, for those that are not in really IT related, is someone's built a piece of software and you guys come in as an external to test the software, whether it's user experience testing or bug testing and things like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that was kind of the core to make sure the quality of the products is intact. We are developing or delivering a good quality application or software to end customers. And that was a differentiator, because we saw that there was a gap in the market. We had the background, we created it, and we actually went with that differentiator to all our customers, where we said, this is what we specialize in. So that was probably the first one. The second big thing, which is kind of given, but not that given when you actually get delivered, is the quality delivery. We made sure that all our customers and whatever we're delivering is of great quality. And a testament for that was repeat business. We have around 95% repeat business rate, keeping in view, most of the work we do. The customers are happy. They like to re-engage us, once we finish the first round of, delivery for them. So, and that I would say is very, very important for every entrepreneur, every business, that if we can we need to have quality delivery for whatever we are working on. And if we have that, we'll actually have repeat business. That's the easiest way to grow a business once you get a customer. The third thing we deployed, and that was as we grew over a period of time, was we were seeing a bit of stagnation in the testing market. We started adding new offerings, and that's, again, if I look back, that was Kimji's brainchild. As we were sitting in the board meeting and saying, Nav, we're not growing in testing. what can we do more? Obviously, we need to grow the business. Saying, why don't we add development services? Why don't we have data services? So we started adding other offerings into the platform or other offerings because we had customers and the customers liked us. And it's like, and it was about the cross selling to the same customer. And then we added geographies. So we had an office in Canberra, we started an office in Melbourne, we started an office offshore back in India. So we added geographies. So it's about, then we started looking at how do we grow the business over a period of time. And that's kind of made sure that we can continue the growth of the business, not just, be there at a certain scale. And that's what helped us grow to up like 300 plus staff over the period of years. The fourth strategy was to build a passionate team. And I know that's the difficult part, was where you want to have a team who can think like us, who can think about quality delivery, who can think about innovation, and you can retain and intact a team. So we have people with us who've been there for the last 7 years, and building and creating that team was again, one of the key aspects where we can actually imbibe the core values and into them, into the staff and the team that we have part of the journey. And fifth but not the least is change and innovation. And when I say that, I think no 2 years are same. We've gone through COVID. We came back. Pre-COVID was a different era. Post-COVID, we're getting to a different era. We see change of government. We see a lot of we got AI coming in. So we can't be on the same path assuming we'll get the same results doing the same thing. And that's again part of journey for an entrepreneur, where we actually innovating and changing all the time and adapting to change.
Yeah. If I was to summarize that in those 5 bullet points, number 1, you said build a strong network. And I from me, what I gathered, what you said is find a niche. And I feel like that external testing automation niche was really interesting. It was a really interesting gap that you found in the market. Number 3, deliver exceptional customer experience. It's not customer service, it's the whole experience from when you first have a conversation with them. Build a passionate team. We all know, your first 10, 20 employees really make or break a business. And 5 is a big one, obviously, change and innovation.
And I might just want to add to that, and the point that Nav made, and being at the board at the time and still at the board, was that desire to change. So Nav is a testing, software IT testing guy. Development was tough and was an unknown, not completely unknown, but he was willing. And there goes my point, and I really want to stress this point for other entrepreneurs, is listen. And we were prepared to explore another avenue to existing customers, and that was the development side. And so now the development is actually between 30 to 40% in any given year of the business, which is pretty substantial. So for entrepreneurs, it's be prepared to change, be prepared to diversify, be prepared to take a different angle, as Adactin has. And that's the reason why it is what it is today.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you hit a bottleneck? 100 plus, 200 plus clients, we've exhausted the testing side of the service. To grow the business more, is that when you guys said, okay, we need to expand into other services?
The way I look at it is the scale. So when we look at the percentage, and I use percentages in terms of the scale. So once you are a 10 mil business and you want to grow at 50% from 10 mil to 15 mil, that's possible. But when you are a 50 mil business and you want to grow at 50% from 50 to 75, no, that's hard.
Right.
And you're looking at that scale, I think that's what was important. So we could, testing for us is still growing, and it's a great business for us.
Right.
Then if you look at the percentage of growth, and when we look at the business growth from a percentage perspective, how much of that scalable exponential growth we can get from testing versus other offerings, that's the major difference. And we are trying to create these new offerings which can actually give us that exponential growth as we continue to grow our core line of businesses. And that's probably was the bottleneck at that stage, I would say, in terms of continuing to grow versus adding more lines of businesses and geographies, which not just help testing, but just help business in general to kind of grow to the next level.
So let's now move, Nav, to the fact that, Adactin has, absolute blue chip clients, state government, federal government, corporates. Share maybe 1 or 2 stories about how daunting it is for companies, entrepreneurs to go into big blue chip clients, and how you were able to win some of the amazing deals that Adactin has won.
And you're referring to large enterprises,
Clients, yeah. From nothing to now walking into the door of a CIO of a large enterprise, which is, I'm sure, a vision and dream for so many.
That's a good point, Kimchi. And we've gone through their trouble, and probably every, I would say, small or mid-segment business goes through that, because we're in the IT space. It's a competitive space. We do end up competing with the big offshore SIs. We end up competing with the big, multinational SIs as well.
SIs?
System integrators, like Accentures of the world and Capgemini's of the world. So we end up, competing with them a lot of time. Now, where do a local Australian organization stand against companies who are, 100,000 or 500,000 strong, when you are competing with the big enterprise or the blue chip customers? And that's the question we asked us, and saying, I'm going for a blue chip customer, and I'm competing with this big SI system integrator who has, 500,000 employees all over the globe, versus we have 300 staff. And you know what? When we actually asked the customers about that, their feedback was the quality of delivery and the way we can understand the culture and the needs of them is far, far better than those big SIs, keeping in view that they work in different layers. They have an APAC, and they've got a global heads, and they got a regional heads, and they've got a sub-regional heads. And by the time the requirements actually reaches the right people, they take weeks and weeks before they could respond. Whereas for us, it was like they tell us a requirement and a solution that they need, or a problem. We can get them back with a solution in a couple of days' time. We are a call away for them. And we understand the culture. We know what people they like, what kind of staff or who they should interact with, and that made a very big difference in terms of winning and being there for these customers. So there is, I would say, the life goes a full circle, and I've seen the ups and downs where the customers will say, "Oh, I need 1,000 people next year, and I need to go with a big SI," versus I need good quality 50 people. And when you say good quality 50 people, say I want to go to Adactin, and that where I can actually get the right staff. And as a part of Testament, we work for a lot of state government departments, and one of the big departments that we work for, we had that feedback from the CIO, is that we had a hit ratio of like 80% when we are actually working for our clients, and we actually have CVs with the customers, versus probably 10 to 20% with certain other offshore SIs, and that was a big differentiator where they like to work with us.
And I think, as Nav quite rightly says, is that you're up against the big global players. Find your differentiator. What is it that's going to make a difference? So quite rightly, CIOs would ring Nav up and say, "Hey, come over, we want to have a chat over a project." Now, they can't do that with the big SIs. So having that passion to deal with the customer, I think, is extremely important. That's what Nav has shown.
When Adactin becomes a $300 million company, or a $500 million company, and it becomes one of those Accentures, the Deloittes, how do you continue to deliver that exceptional customer service? You may have 200 CEOs emailing you, calling you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you continue to still stay that hands-on?
Good question, Suraj. From creating the team, and we spoke about creating a passionate team and creating the core values. I quote here from Steve Jobs, where he said, "Best leaders are great individual contributors, not professional managers." And what he meant was that, and that was in early days of Apple, because that's when, as they were growing and they were in that journey, and they were growing drastically, exponentially, they started hiring professional managers to manage the work, and that's where things didn't work out for them. So they wanted to, because they didn't knew what to get delivered. Whereas having the right or the great individual contributors, which were then converted into managers. So that's a very similar philosophy we've been following at Adactin as well. So as we look at a lot of our Adactin leadership team, they've been exceptional, great individual contributors in their own right. And then we're now converting them into managers, and there is a learning path or learning curve, and they are coming up beautifully in terms of growing into that path. So and some of from a recruitment perspective, and that's where it's to be very important. Me and Sapna and Kimji, we've been involved in a lot of the talent recruitment ourselves, making sure we are passionate about who we are hiring as a part of the team. And I feel that as we obviously grow, and if we have these right set of people, I don't have to be involved at every stage of hiring, but if these people we've hired who are great contributors and managers by themselves, and if they are hiring people and they follow the same strategy downwards, we'll create a great team where we can actually help create a passionate team and deliver the same level of quality and service for our customers.
Would you say leaders are born or built over time?
Both, but I'm a firm believer in building the leaders. I think I feel everybody is a born leader. Everybody has the capability to lead. It's how you train them, how you build them, and how you transform them over a period of time is what makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And creating that leaders, and that's something which I know Kimji has been doing it over a period of time, mentoring and building leaders. And we have the passion, and obviously that passion has to come from something. But then if there is somebody who's got passion, we can build the right leaders from there.
So now moving on to, I know that both you and Sapna are very culturally minded and also religious as well. Tell us what the impact that has on your success overall.
From coming from Indian background, Kimji, and obviously a bit of spiritual background as well, I felt a lot of the values that we had coming up that really helped in a business. And I'm a firm believer that spirituality and business are really interlinked. A good spiritual person can be a good business leader, and I use the word leader. And a good leader would be a good person in spirituality and grow in spirituality, because all the key core values that we talk about, passion, determination, perseverance, they both are using the same core values for their personal or professional growth as well. So coming back into what we did, or what our culture helped us was, one of the things that really helped us culture was listening, and as I already said, so it was we in general, we are good listeners. And when we listen, we understand, we take up advice, and then we implement that advice, and that made a big difference. Looking up to the mentors like yourself. Lately now we have Ian Poole, who is ex-CEO of UX Connect. We have Vivek Berry, who's been Group CIO of IntelliHub. So we actually taken really good advice and listened, and we implemented that advice. The other big part is the hunger, and I feel that coming from that, again, an Indian background and probably a migrant background, I think that made again a big difference. I think we came from humble background, all of us, or many of us, and the hunger was there. And I'm not just talking about passion; it's about hunger. I read a book in early days of Adactin. The book is "Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish" by Rashmi Bansal, and I really recommend that everybody read. It's about the story of 25 and Ahmedabad graduates who took the difficult journey, the second road, to actually overcome the rough paths to actually create successful businesses. And that's kind of was that hunger that it's very, very important, and that came obviously coming from the culture or the background that we were in, and it was about doing it. We wanted to do more, and that really made a big difference. The third big thing I see is the gratitude, and I connect that with spirituality. I connect that with giving back to society. Is the gratitude to people who have contributed to your success. Coming to from a spiritual perspective, when we talking to people, and it starts with your parents. So if you look at it, what we are, a lot of that comes with your, the values that your parents imbibed in you, and that's kind of those. And if you are have gratitude toward them, I always firmly believe that in a world of spirituality, there are blessings, and blessings do help. And I've always and just that's more on a personal side. So we always been trying to help people, and and when you help people, you get blessings. And there've been numerous scenarios. I probably don't relate that, where I'm in a difficult situation as like, oh God, please help. And I want to get out of this situation because, and could go either way, and you get help. And it says, good Lord, this is like it's more like a miracle then. And you look back and saying, you must be some good deeds that you've done, which really helps you. And that comes to that whole spirituality point, or the point of having gratitude and blessings from your parents, your family, or from people you're helping there as well. And the fourth point I make is around the family and the team culture that we come around. A lot of that comes from being in India. We come from kind of a family environment, sort of team culture. So that's building a team with a family culture comes naturally to us. So we kind of get together, have lunches or dinners, or we meet people, we connect, and I think that makes again a big difference. From coming with a cultural background to kind of get through as the business and growing the business as well, because that the background just helps us rightly into kind of the growth of the business as well.
So I've just related to that you've mentioned a number of writers. So just on a personal mantra, if you like, and if we take Stephen Covey, for example, and some of his career works, what's that one line that you can come up with that you feel you want to give future entrepreneurs? One line that they can take away, sleep on it, and say, you know what, I want to build my career around this. What would you suggest?
I'll quote Robert Frost again, and and that was a poem I read when I was in year 5 or year 6, and the crux was miles to go before I sleep. And that was the poem which said, the woods are nice and handsome, and but you can't stay there. You got miles to go before you sleep. And that kind of stuck to me and said, yes, I think we are here for a purpose, and the purpose could be different for different people. And we always say in Hindi or Hindu mythology, like we get this birth one in whatever 84,000 or 840,000 times out of that. So we need to make most of it, and that's the mantra I say, saying don't be in your comfort zone. You got miles to go before you sleep. Get out of that comfort zone and get on with it.
Thanks.
What advice would you give to other migrants looking to start their own businesses?
What I feel is the first step is the hardest, and I speak to a lot of friends who are working or in jobs, and the first step's probably the hardest step to actually do that. I mean, when I first started writing my first book, it took me almost 3 to 4 years to actually get on with it. I named that kind of project, I call that Mission Passion, and that's like, I want to do it, I want to write my first book, and that was probably the hardest. I wrote one chapter, and then I sat on it for like 3 months, and then probably wrote the second one after another 3 months, and that took me time. But then once I had the first one, the next one took me like a year to actually write the second one, and then probably wrote another one in probably 6 months time, because I knew exactly how to write, what the process is, what I should write and what I shouldn't write in the book. So the first step is the hardest. So I think just go for it. And the second thing I say is it's okay to fail. I think it's a lot of people are just because they don't like to fail or want to fail, they just don't try. And if it's like if you don't try, you fail yourself. So it's important that it's okay to fail. And I know Kimji, we've discussed in the past, we keep an open mind. You work within your boundaries. And it's fine to fail. So, and it's like we hear from Elon Musk, right? For his thing is like our failures are learnings, and the way he runs and does the innovation or research is like, yes, we fail, and that's from then we know there's a way that doesn't work. There's a very good quote from Thomas Edison. It's like when he does 10,000 experiments and they fail, it's just he knows that 10,000 times it doesn't work.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the way it is, rather than going the other way around. There's no shortcuts also. So it's kind of, there is persistence, there's hard work. And I'll take a good story here. read it somewhere. Michael Phelps, in 2008, I think he became the first person to win 8 gold medals, or the highest number of gold medals in a single Olympics. So he was sitting in a press conference, and one of the reporters saying, Michael, you must be very excited, enthusiastic, and feeling lucky that you won 8 gold medals. And that kind of rattled Michael. He said, you know what? This journey that I'm sitting here today, it started 4 years ago in the last Olympics. So I went back, he looked at what was the previous record was for the highest number of medals, and then there was somebody with 7 gold medals in swimming. He said, and I checked that person used to swim 6 hours every day. So he said, if I need to beat that person and get better than that, I need to swim at least 8 hours every day. So 4 years, not a single day, he has actually been out of the water. He's not taken a break. 4 years in a row, he's been in water every day. And that make a difference. So please don't call it lucky, because it's a lot of hard work. There's no shortcuts behind this, the passion that he's gone through. So and there is no shortcut. So I can tell you that. I think there's all entrepreneurs or all good business leaders that you would speak to. There is hard work, and that's kind of important. Continue to innovate and learn. I think that's kind of in today's world with AI coming in, and a lot of innovation in every way. So I think it's that creating the differentiator, learning every day, innovating every day is important. And the last one is be patient. And I think that's another big one where a lot of entrepreneurs fail because they try for some time, but then they fail. And I'll probably call out, there's another saying that they have: if a business runs effectively for 1,000 days, I call it out, you'll actually run a successful business. And that's the time that you need to be patient. Because you will see that's the first 1,000 days is when you see lots of ups and downs of business. You'll run to your mind, why am I doing it? I'm not earning anything. So much of hard work. There'll be people calling that out to you, saying you're on the wrong business. Probably you're not the right person to do it.
Yeah.
You just need to keep patient, have self-beliefs, and just get on with it. And that's, I would say, is very, very important to keep patience, especially for the migrants, who are looking at getting onto the entrepreneur journey.
I love that Michael Phelps quote or interview, because I'm a big football or a soccer fan, and I was recently listening to the podcast with Cristiano Ronaldo on Whoop. The wearable Whoop that's everyone's wearing. The CEO asked him, what's the blueprint to success? And he said, I can give anyone the blueprint to success. It's all about hard work. The reason why I'm so successful and one of the greatest soccer players of all time is because I could give you the blueprint, but if you're not willing to put in the work, then you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
So in the same vein of Michael Phelps, I love that quote. What I'm getting from this podcast is, Dad's written a book now, Spiritual Journey of an Entrepreneur. You've written books on testing automation. It sounds like I'll have to write a book soon as well. If sooner rather than later for on my journey as well.
So Nav, that was great. Just finishing off now and looking ahead. Where are you going? Where's your legacy going? And then something that people might want to learn from that.
From an acting perspective, again, we're going leaps and bounds. We're almost touching 50 mil as a business with 300 plus staff. We are now looking at growing globally. We recently set up entities in US and Canada. We kind of getting more on the global footprint and try to grow globally, along with obviously within Australia as a business. We're launching new service lines, the AI space, cyberspace. I think that's kind of another kind of platform offerings that we are actually looking at. So we know, I think the next goal in the next 3 years to be a kind of $100 million business, and that's kind of the intent where we're going with the Adactin. More from a legacy perspective of what I like to leave from a legacy, and that's probably the next leg for me is to I want to promote entrepreneurship and business thinking, and that's kind of and creating that next gen of business leaders, and we're trying to kind of come up with other forums where we can actually grow and mentor other leaders. From what I've learned as a part of my journey over the years, how can I actually use and help others, to get into that journey. The other big part is how can we get back to the society, and something Adactin in a big way we've been trying to see, not just work from a business perspective, but how can we actually do the corporate social responsibility work. And we've done a lot of that as part of Adactin, where we do support a lot of orphanages, we support Red Cross, Lifeblood, we support old age homes back in India, and on it's heat days or it's summers in India, and we're trying to support a lot of people there, back there as well. How can we give back whatever we learn from a philanthropy perspective, and give that back to society, what society has given us, over the years. And the third big part is the spiritual connection. And as I said, I feel it's spirituality and business are very much interlinked. And at one stage, I think I'm sure I want to write a book on spirituality and business, and how linked they are, and how can we actually, as business people, how can we grow spiritually, and how can actually interconnect both these philosophies. And that's probably, I'm sure, Kimji, I'll think that helps some of you, and you're probably the right person, for that. You've seen both sides of things, and that's probably the kind of the next big thing I like to do.
So look, Nav, amazing 1 hour, some absolute gems. On behalf of Suraj and myself, thank you for these insights. Obviously, I've been some part of that journey, so I know a lot of these things as well. But I'm sure for our listeners, they will be absolutely fascinated to hear of your journey and the insights that you've been giving us in the last hours. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nav.
Thank you, Suraj and Kimji, for inviting me for this show.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey with Nav. His story of resilience, innovation, and success is truly inspiring and provides invaluable insights for aspiring entrepreneurs everywhere. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more inspirational stories. This recording was made possible by the Hills Podcast and Video Studio located at Bella Vista Hotel. Special thanks and shout out to them for their support. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep striving, and remember that your journey is what makes you unique. This is Suraj signing off from the Migrant Mentor podcast. See you on the next episode.